everybody, this is Blue. Today I'll be talking to you guys about Resident Evil 5. For this title, we fall back in line with former STARS member Chris Redfield, but I won't blame you if you don't recognize him at first. He's developed a build to match the thickness of his skull. But no, in reality, I actually like him quite a lot, in spite of his cluelessness at times, and I think this is probably the strongest story for him yet. It kind of intertwines his past with the present global threat, taking place chronologically about 6 years after the so-called destruction of Umbrella. He meets up with a new partner named Sheva, a fellow member of the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, or BSAA for short. They make their way through several parts in Africa to try to stop the bioorganic weapon smuggling, but they uncover some old ties and connections as well as a new virus called Ouroboros. This is one of the first main title games to actually take advantage of the live-action inventory screen, as well as a fully comprehensive multiplayer system. Both of these qualities are actually reminiscent of maybe a more polished Resident Evil Outbreak, but for me, the mandatory inclusion of a computer-controlled or human-controlled partner completely changed the dynamic. They were starting to stray away from like the survival horror genre with 4, but this title really pushed the series over the edge and clipped off the kind of horror part in the category. There are still creatures and monsters and events that would be considered horrific, but in the classic sense of the word, this title is completely void of anything but simply survival. Enemy encounters can be intense, using both the combat dynamic as well as interlacing some quick-time events in both the gameplay and during the cutscenes. Walking and running with your character is incredibly smooth. I felt that the inventory system actually worked out really nicely, and there are very few, if any, points in the environment that trips you up or kind of gets in your way. The enemies will seem familiar for anyone who's played Resident Evil 4. The Ouroboros virus is actually really similar to the Las Plagas in the sense that the enemies will sometimes transform with like these grotesque creatures sprouting up out of their necks, and the majority of them can be disposed the same way that you're used to with like flash grenades or like a magnum shot to the head. But in the sense of the intelligence of the AI, it's actually a lot more comprehensive because the enemies will overwhelm you really quickly if you don't keep moving, and that's kind of what gives you the sort of burst of adrenaline during the gameplay. Graphically, this game had some pretty wonderfully grotesque environments. I think this is one of the first games that sort of displayed the idea of your eyes getting adjusted to the light after being in the dark of a building or vice versa, which kind of added to the intensity of the game, and it looks really, really good. Overall, Resident Evil is my favorite series ever, so I tend to judge it harsher than other people, and I was pretty disappointed in this at first. I kind of did an all-nighter on it, and that might have been part of why I didn't enjoy as much as I could have if I had just taken my time. But it was mainly the weak storyline and the mandatory co-op that kind of turned me off of it. But I'm also not afraid to admit that it really grew on me over time, especially after playing it through with friends instead of just the computer-controlled character. And it does earn some points for the Wesker battles, because they were definitely my favorite part.